Facing a midlife crisis? Find courage in everyday women's stories. Subscribe to Resilient Women Rising.
The fluorescent lights of the factory break room buzzed like a swarm of angry bees as Beatrice B. Harrow, 49, stared at the termination letter in her hands. After 15 years on the assembly line at a textile mill in Asheville, North Carolina, she was out-replaced by automation. Her loyalty reduced to a cold, effective immediately. Her hands, calloused from years of stitching seams, shook as she packed her locker a thermos, a faded photo of her late husband, Daniel, and a union pin she'd worn with pride. At 49, with her daughter, Lila, off at college in Raleigh, Bea felt the ground crumble beneath her. The mill had been her lifeline since Daniel's heart attack 3 years ago, and now it was gone. She drove home through the Blue Ridge Mountains, the autumn leaves a blur of crimson and gold, her mind racing. The mortgage on their small cabin loomed. Her savings were a measly $800, and Asheville's job market offered little for a woman her age with no degree. She pulled into the gravel driveway, the cabin's sagging porch, a mirror to her own exhaustion. Inside, she dropped her bag and sank onto the couch, staring at the empty fireplace. Daniel's voice echoed in her memory. "You're tougher than the clay in those hills, Bea." But she didn't feel tough. She felt broken. The next morning, desperate for distraction, Bea tackled the shed out back, a cluttered mess of Daniel's tools and her old hobbies. Among the cobwebs, she found her pottery wheel, a relic from her 20s when she'd taken classes at the community college. She'd loved the feel of wet clay under her hands, the way it yielded to her touch, transforming into bowls and vases under her steady pressure. Her pieces had sold at local craft fairs, earning her enough to buy Christmas gifts one year. But life, marriage, motherhood, the mill had buried that passion. Could she still do it? With nothing to lose, Bea dragged the wheel into the cabin, its weight a challenge she welcomed. She found a bag of clay in the shed, dry but salvageable, and spent the day kneading it back to life, her hands remembering the rhythm. The first pot was a disaster, lopsided, collapsing under its own weight, but the act of creating felt like breathing again. She kept at it, her fingers rediscovering their strength, her mind quieting with each spin of the wheel. By week's end, she had 3 wobbly bowls, their imperfections oddly beautiful. Bea's first ally was her neighbor, Rosa, a 70-year-old retiree with a sharp tongue and a soft heart. Rosa caught her hauling clay to the cabin and demanded to see the results. "Not bad for a rusty old gal," she said, turning a bowl in her hands. "Sell these at the farmer's market. Folks here love handmade stuff." Bea hesitated. She wasn't an artist, just a fired factory worker with a hobby, but Rosa wouldn't hear it. "You've got talent, Bea. Use it." The Asheville farmer's market was a gamble. Bea rented a stall for 20, her stomach in knots, as she set out her 5 best pieces: 3 bowls, a mug, and a small vase, glazed in earthy greens and blues she'd mixed herself. She priced them low, $10 to $15, unsure if anyone would bite. By noon, a young couple bought the vase, charmed by its rustic charm. An older woman took a bowl, saying, "It feels like home." By day's end, she'd sold out, pocketing $60. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Bea threw herself into pottery, her days a blur of clay and glaze. She scoured thrift stores for tools, bartered with a local kiln owner for firing time, and watched YouTube tutorials on her cracked phone to refine her technique. Her hands grew stronger, her pieces more confident, tall vases with rippled edges, mugs with sturdy handles. She started an Instagram page, Bea's Clay Corner, posting photos of her work, her follower count creeping up from 10 to 100, mostly locals drawn by her story. But the path wasn't smooth. A batch of pots cracked in the kiln, costing her $50 in materials. A market day was rained out, leaving her with nothing but soggy cardboard and a bruised ego. worse, a hip young potter at the market sneered at her stall. "Cute, but it's not art," he said, his sleek ceramics gleaming nearby. Bee's confidence wavered. She was too old, too amateur. That night, she sat by the fireplace, a cracked mug in her hands, tears falling. Was this a mistake? Lila's call the next day pulled her back. "Mom, your stuff's amazing," she said, her voice bright over the line. "I showed my friends your page, they love it." Lila's pride and the memory of Daniel's faith in her reignited Bee's fire. She wasn't doing this for snobs. She was doing it for herself, for the people who saw beauty in her work. She kept going, her hands steadier, her designs bolder. The turning point came when a local cafe owner, impressed by her mugs at the market, ordered 20 for their shop, paying $200 up front. Bee worked through the night, her cabin, a mess of clay and glaze, delivering the order on time. The cafe's customers loved them, and soon, other businesses came calling. A bookstore wanted vases. A B&B ordered custom planters. Bee upgraded her wheel with her earnings, rented a corner of Rosa's garage as a studio, and hired a high schooler to help with glazing. By her 50th birthday, Bee's Clay Corner was a small but steady business. She wasn't rich, profits were tight, and she still haggled for clay, but she paid the mortgage, her fridge stocked with more than ramen. She started pottery classes in her studio, teaching retirees and teens the magic of the wheel. Her students called her Miss B, their laughter filling the space where grief once lived. Her Instagram hit 1,000 followers, her feed a gallery of earthy creations and smiling faces. One crisp fall evening, Bee stood at the market, her stall bustling with customers. Lila, home for the weekend, helped her pack up, her eyes shining with pride. "You did it, Mom," she said, hugging her tight. Bee looked at the mountains, the leaves, glowing in the sunset, and felt Daniel's presence in the breeze. She'd lost everything, her job, her husband, her certainty, but she'd shaped a new life from the ashes. At 50, Beatrice Harrow wasn't just surviving, she was thriving, her hands and heart full of clay and courage.